Good evening. This is Brendan McCarty with the Channel 13 News at 7. Today we are discussing the rape of Nanjing. The rape of Nanjing was a 6-week period following the capture of Nanjing. Today we have our two experts with Nick.
Thanks, Brendan. I'm here with Mr. Lee, an expert on the Japanese involvement in the rape of Nanjing, and Toby, an expert on the Chinese involvement. Mr. Lee, can you explain how the Japanese instigated war towards the Chinese?
Well, it all started when Japan captured Manchuria in 1932 and set up a puppet Manchukuo regime which instigated another war in Asia. The Second Sino-Japanese War became a bloody 8-year-long war. After capturing Manchuria, the first target was Shanghai, in which both sides took major damage in the decisive battle. After battling in Shanghai, Japanese Imperial Army thought that they would be returning home, but they were sent westward towards Nanjing.
Mr. Lee, why would the Japanese invade your country?
The first target for the Japanese was Manchuria because it was rich in natural resources and Japan was already heavily invested in the area. Fighting soon began in Shanghai, then moved towards the capital Nanjing.
Toby, what was China planning to do to protect the city of Nanjing?
You see, the general of the Chinese army, Chiang Kai-shek, knew the fall of Nanjing was only a matter of time. Chiang withdrew most of his troops in Nanjing because he could not risk losing his elite troops he needed to protect the capital. The main reason the rape of Nanjing was so horrible was because of the large amount of troops that were withdrawn. Chiang Kai-shek left General Tang in charge of protecting Nanjing. Tang announced the city of Nanjing would not surrender and they would fight to the death protecting the city. Tang gathered about 100,000 soldiers, largely untrained, including troops that had fought in the Battle of Shanghai.
Mr. Lee, can you explain what happened to the Japanese troops showed up to Nanjing?
The Japanese military continued forward, destroying the last lines of Chinese resistance, and arrived outside the city of Nanjing. Over 1 million troops surrounded the city of Nanjing, urging them to surrender. When the Chinese refused to surrender, General Matsu Iwane issued the command to take Nanjing by force. After a 2-day artillery and aerial fire, General Tang ordered his troops to retreat. Japanese entered the city of Nanjing with little military resistance. While in the city, Japanese troops killed around 200,000 civilians and raped up to 80,000 women.
What happened was nothing short of devastating. Brendan, back to you.
Thank you, Nick. And now a break for weather with Ollie.
Thanks, Brendan. I'm Ollie with the 5-day forecast. As you can see on Monday, we have a high of 65, low of 60, 40% chance of rain. Tuesday, looking good, mostly sunny, highs of 72, low of 69. Wednesday, it's going to be great, all sunny all day, high 75, low somewhere in the 68. Thursday, we got a high of 71 and a low of 66, 80% chance of rain. And on Friday, we have a high of 62 and a low of 57. Very high chance of thunderstorms, around 90%. Back to you, Brendan.
Thanks, Ollie, for the good news on the weather. And now to our on-scene reporter with an eyewitness account on the rape of Nanjing.
Thank you, Brendan. I'm here with a Japanese citizen from Nanjing that managed to survive the atrocities that occurred. Sir, can you explain to me what happened that night in Nanjing?
When the Japanese entered the city after we had been bombed for 2 days, I was very terrified what would happen to me. Japanese troops poured into the city, burning buildings and killing a small number of troops that still resisted. The Japanese troops began in stealing and killing innocent civilians for no reason. Japanese troops took women from their homes and raped them. One night, it was reported that 1,000 women had been taken and raped each night. Most rapes were committed during the daytime, and if they resisted, they were shot or stabbed. Japanese dug wide trenches and buried many men and women, alive and dead, in them. I was constantly trying to get out of the city with a small group of Chinese civilians until we finally escaped outside of the city walls and then traveled to the capital of Chongqing.
How did you feel when you finally got out of the city?
Well, after I got out of the city, I felt very relieved, but I also felt great sorrow for the others that had been murdered in the city.
Oh. Thank you for your time. Brendan, back to you.
Well, that's all the time we have for tonight. This has been Brendan McCarty with the Channel 13 News. Good night.